Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the think show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find their way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous one. You know, ever since we put out African Americans Ain't Africans, of course, we've been getting a lot of feedback, mostly slack, but people who get it, people who understand what's being said, they get it and they do additional research. Tonight, this young lady, the additional research she's done is going to add credence to what I've been saying. When you do your research into your family, you find out things, and that's how close it is. All you have to do is get with your families, which is what we say every week. So tonight we're going to add more proof to you, and to help us do that is Miss Crystal Spaulding. Crystal, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Mr. Carey, how you doing? I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Good. I'm good too.
I'm excited to be here with you.
Oh, well, thank you for being here with me, and I'm sure the audience is excited too because they're in for a treat tonight.
Oh yeah, I got a couple of wowzers.
Okay, so we grew up on reservations. Could you explain that to the audience? What do you mean by that?
Okay, so first off, we will say if you ever lived in what we would call the projects, right? The projects have different section housings, but it goes for 1 through 200, right? For the housing authority, right? Which will be like section 3, section 8. Everybody know about section 8, and some people know about section 3. So this is the thing: if you live in the housing projects up under the housing authority, they are headed by the symbol is called HUD, and that's Housing for Urban Development, right? Now, this is where he came to get interesting. Okay, so when you live in the projects, and that's under HUD, so the next main office is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I just let that soak in for a second. So you went from the PJs into HUD all the way to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so when the with the living in the bureau, living in the housing projects up under the Bureau of Indian Affairs, we have the 1968 Indian Fair Housing Act, what it was called the Indian Housing Project, and then they named it the Fair Housing Project. I know. And then we want to jump back. So we're going to go back a little bit in life. So you can say, well, how the word do we get here? So in 1625, up under King George II, right, he had a proclamation that says Indians free of amity. The word amity means friendship. So it says Indians free of amity, renamed Negro, is for the taxed, the untaxed, and the wild savage. King George um only had the jurisdiction from Maine down to Georgia, right? King George did. And then, first it was Charles, what is his name? No, King James, then George II, then Charles II, right? And then so forth with the kingdoms until 1786 when they completely gave up their control, or they just not gave up their control. They just switched the name of the control to the U.S. government. And inside of those years from 1625 until 1786, they were doing different projects, right, to move the Indians around into different areas. Right, they were just doing all kind of stuff to move them around. We have the Fair Housing Act, not the Fair Housing. We have the Indian Removal Act, and then we have the first non-European citizens to join the Union in 1830. That is the treaty with the Dancing Rabbit Creek. And in that treaty was with the people of the Mississippi, not necessarily the state of Mississippi. It is the people of the Mississippi became the first non-European citizens in the Union. And inside of that, they have the Homestead Act. That's what I wanted to tell you. The Homestead Act. And the Homestead Act, it started in 1822, and that's when they started moving the Indians that were in the Mississippi area and from the eastern woodland area, which will be the east coast of the United States, until into the Midwest, which will be Oklahoma. And if anybody who lives in Oklahoma, Tulsa, by the way, which they like to call Black Wall Street, no, it's the Indian reservation. Sorry. Tulsa right now, currently up under Murphy's Law, is an Indian reservation. The whole town, all majority of the whole state of Oklahoma is a reservation. And so they moved the Indians from, the Mississippi area and from the eastern woodland area to the Midwest. Okay. And those places, those people stay at, they call themselves Black. They're actually Indian reservations. Those are just like the projects that I grew up in one called Lincoln Homes. The more familiar one with people who live in the Midwest will be Cabrini Green. Is that how you say it? Cabrini Green, or the
Cabrini Green,
Robert
yeah.
Taylor Homes.
Yeah, and I think Chicago, Green. I think it's been torn down now, though.
Yeah, that's what they call it. Now they call it gentrification, where they move the Indians from the reservations, the projects, out to the suburbs. It's still Indian removal all around, even up to 2023. They still removing Indians, right? And so, um, most people who live in the projects don't know that they're living on a reservation. They have no clue whatsoever. And how I found out that we was on the reservation is because I'm nosy. And I be doing genealogy, because you have to find out who you are through your family. You just can't pick and be somebody. You need to figure out who you are from doing your genealogy in your family. And me doing genealogy in my family, I seen that I have a U.S. private claims from my grandmother named Pigeon in the Water, and her Indian, well, the way we would say her name in the Cherokee language is Wasini Eweta, right? And she has a U.S. Private claims to the land from the Appalachian Mountains. And I was like, wait a minute. So, that's just a search right there. And then you keep looking at housing things, and I ran into the Homestead Act. And then I said the Homestead, oh, and they said that was just to give out land to the settlers, but it was already home to the Indians. And I was like, oh, okay, let's keep going. So that's 1822. We got 1831, where the first people of the Mississippi became the first non-European citizens. And then we're going to travel up until what year will be a good year to go? Ooh, the 1850 and 1860 census. Those people who are on that census are called the free inhabitant census. So wait a minute, the who inhabitant? I thought we were all slaves from Africa. Wait a minute, hold on. So you look at the free inhabitant census of 1850, 1860. I found my grandfathers up there on those censuses. And then we're going to go to 1865 when they have the Emancipation Proclamation. And I was like, they free people. Okay. And right 5 years later, they have the amended July the 14th, 1870 Naturalization Act. And inside of that act, they said that Africans were naturalized and to be free white persons. And they also named who also could be a free white person in the 1870 Naturalization Act. I said, wait a minute, I thought everybody was free after 1865. No, no, no. Um, that's when you can find those untaxed. and those wild savage Indians in your family, right? They will rename free people of color, Negro, colored, right? So right now in 1870, um, we're still colored people. We're not free people of color now. We just colored people in 1870. So in we're gonna go 1880 is the first time that they counted everybody that they could find on all of the soil in the United States, right? I found this census in 1880 in LaFleur County, Mississippi. This is crazy. So in LaFleur County, Mississippi in 1880, they had 9,000 people who were born to the state, 2,000 number of people who were born from different states. There was 9 people from England, about 15 from Scotland, 19 from Ireland, 24 from Germany, 4 from Africa, 4 from Ohio. You say Ohio? Yeah, Ohio, because Ohio didn't become a part of the United States not until 1948. Okay, so and then it has 2 people from Jamaica, and then like one some other little places, right? I couldn't really understand the handwriting because they got lazy. But that was in 1880. The census in 1880 in LaFleur County, Mississippi. Okay, so they are still moving the people around, and if you look at the census, you'll see that now the neighborhoods that people live in are called militias, right? Some are called militias, some are called parishes, right? You'll be like militia 9 or parish 10, or then we have what's the one that they always use down in New Orleans? The fifth, the wards, right? They have the wards in Texas, they have wards in Louisiana, and they had also had wards in parts of Arkansas and Tennessee. They have wards, right? And then the names just keep changing, you all. The names just keep changing. So they went from the different names of the communities being the wards and militias and the parishes, right? This is in the 1880s. We're going to get to the 1900s. Um, they still were moving Indians from out of their neighborhood. 1913, 1931. Let's go back some years. 1921. This is when we have Walter Plecker. All this goes together to get to you to the projects. We have Walter Plecker, right? And he does the where he take the people of Virginia and tell them they can't be Indian no more. They have to be colored people now, right? And so the Indians are losing who they are through the legislation of this newly formed government, right? This European government that is on top of the American Indian, regardless of the respective tribe that you're from, they're doing it to everybody living here. They say they brought 12 million slaves. That's not true, because if you look up slavevoyages.org, you see that it was less than 92,000 people that came actually from the continent, which is not a continent of Africa. Africa is a little bitty place right beside Morocco from a map from 1712 from Princeton University, right? So we still going together. We 1921, the Indians are losing who they are. They became colored people. And then all the other states wrote it into legislation because of Walter Plecker. Also, at this time, we have Mr. Marcus Garvey, who is a Jamaican, trying to um, get the American Indians to move to Africa, Sierra Leone to be exact. Okay, Sierra Leone. We have the American Colony Organization. What is it called? The American Colonists Organization, right? Where they took American Indians and moved them to different parts of Africa, right? The mix us in with those people that were already over there. And for the first time when they started moving people, they wouldn't live past 5 years. So, and now we're gonna go back just about 30 years before Abraham Lincoln died. and he had a meeting with 5 colored men. That's what the letter says. He had a meeting with 5 colored men, and he asked them, "Don't y'all want to go to Sierra Leone?" And they was like, "No, we ain't from over there. We want to stay where we're from." And he was like, "Well, how about y'all move to Panama because it's the home of your nativity?" And it was like, "Nope, we ain't moving to Panama either. We're gonna stay right up here in the states of the United here States, America, right?" So we have to start. So we're gonna keep going. All of this goes together. So they said no, and then Walter Plecker came by and said, "Well, since y'all ain't gonna move, we're gonna make y'all be somebody else." Okay, that's when they went again from being Indians to colored people. Okay, and there's lots of legislation.govs that prove all of what I'm saying right now. And then in 1928 they had the stock market crash, right? And so in 1931, 32 is in the inception of the corporation of the United States. And now people want to be a slave. Now is when we got caught up. Okay, this is when we caught ourselves up into their imaginary system, because they gave us birth certificates. We accepted the birth certificates, and we also accepted social security numbers from them. And the way that they got people to get into this situation was because they told them that, the old people, we're going to take care of the elderly, right? And so we need, to get you into this system so we can send you a check every month, a pension, from the government, because you pay taxes, right? Some people didn't pay taxes, but people thought it was getting out of check, so they signed up for it, right? They should not have done that. Okay, so the first Indian Housing Act is in 1943. 1943-47 is when they have the first housing project starting to pop up all around different places in the United States. Right? People don't know they moving from their country home into the urban city into a reservation. They didn't know that. So we're gonna go to the year 1964 is when they have the voter rights, right? And it is the Indian voter rights, right? And we're going to go 4 more years to what people will call the civil rights. No, it's not the civil rights at all. The actual name of that bill is called the Indian Bill of Rights, right? In 1968, Indian Bill of Rights. And in the same year, that's when they signed a new act called the Indian Housing Project. And that's when HUD was developed, right? And then that's the projects. And Section 3 housing is a discount code for any Indians who know they're Indian or whatever, but people wouldn't be allowed to be called Indian because the census takers will come to your house and tell you, because of your complexion, that you couldn't be who you know you are any longer, right? And so 1999, 1990, you can self-identify, but we're gonna go back some. So I hope I'm not all over the place, Mr. Carey. Am I doing okay? Because I talk to people all the time about this, but this is my first time on your platform. Am I?
No, no, you're sounding fine, but this is what's pissing me off. You see how we get all confused because we have all these people. I mean, they skip all of what you're saying and go back to a Bible story or some story that they heard and take on the characteristics of those characters in that book.
Mm-hmm.
And it screws everything up. Then you get these Negroes who go to college and think they're all smart and all this stuff. And all they're doing is confusing, like the brother said, speak your truth, my youth. They confusing people like you, your children, grandchildren, and all that. And it leaves us in a bind. So no, you're perfect. So please continue.
Okay, so where we at? With the Indian Housing Act, and they changed the name to the Fair Housing Act. And if you remember, you never seen anybody of the fair skin, because in this book called The New England Families, it's a .gov book, and And oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Carey. Somebody trying to call in. You might not hear me.
So basically, what the sister is saying, she's just laying it down. And this stuff, you can go look this stuff up yourself. So when you have all these cats, I mean, today, they're trying to remove you. See, this is something that we don't want to get into. We don't want to talk about how we go around acting like asses, and we do, but try to act like something's wrong with us. This is what's up. We take pride in not knowing anything, don't we? You tell a person the truth, they cuss you out and hold on to the lie and don't even know what they're talking about. So this is how come all these people can come over here and, like she say, they move you around every chance they get.
Oh, okay. So, um, when Mr. Martin Luther King, thank you for Mr. Carey. When Mr. Martin Luther King, before he passed away, in his last speech, he said that he was coming to get the check, right? And the check that he was talking about is the fact that they let all the foreign, European, African, Indian, Asian people, right? All those people from the Eastern Hemisphere, because they're all cousins. Everybody from the Eastern Hemisphere come to America to occupy America completely. And in doing so, they need for us to get out the way, right? So they have started taking the housing projects and the other low income housing around all areas and knocking them down and just telling people they got to go wherever they want to go, right? Give them a voucher to move somewhere, but it really ain't nowhere to move to, right? So the way for those people to not have themselves inside of that situation is to do their genealogy, because I'm sure your grandmama told you that she was an Indian, and if your grandmama was an Indian, how you not one? Like, where did disconnect come from? Did she not have your mama or your daddy? You understand? Like, did she not have your parents, and your parents didn't have you? So now, if you adopted by your grandma, then no, maybe you're not an Indian because she adopted y'all. But if she had your father or she had your mother and she said she's Indian, then your mama or your daddy Indian and you one too. That is just the way the law is in United States. They are currently trying to get you to feel like you are an African, so you will be an immigrant. So what we got? 1990, you can self-identify, right? And then we're gonna run all the way up to 2016. HR 4238 is when President Obama changed the legislation from Indians and Negro to Black and African American. So anytime you read any new government legislation, it's all going to say African American, because they have written the Indians off on paper to make everybody on the land be an immigrant. They also, and while he when he did do that 2 years beforehand, he went to the UN and they gave him this thing called the Undripped Act. That's the I can't get the acronyms together. I wish I knew exactly what it was. The Indigenous People Act. What it stands for is, if you are an indigenous person living in America, you could have signed up with the UN to be protected by the UN, and they gave them a date of 2014. And in 2015, the U.S. government announced that UNDRIP Act, but it was out of the date time frame that the UN gave them to tell the American people, that they could sign up for it, right? So then he quickly changed the legislation from Indians and Negro to African American. And then also inside of that, they wrote up this agenda called Agenda 2063. And in that agenda is for them to remove all the African Americans from America. You can Google all of these things, people. I'm not pulling this stuff out of the back of my head. It is all .gov documentation. They write it down. People just don't read it. They'll do a law and it'll be like 1,600 pages, and in the middle they put some more wild stuff in the middle. that they think no one is going to catch. Not me, because I read all of it. So with that agenda, it's against the law to misidentify yourself. So all the people who are naming themselves African American, it's against the law. So they will be put out of America because they say they African. When when you do your genealogy, you probably can't find an African from nowhere, but you will find you a swarthy European. I do know that for a fact because in doing my genealogy, my fourth generation grandfather. Thank you. Come back in here, Mahogany. Come in the house. You come in the house too. Hey, you walk in the house too. She walk in back with you. Okay, let me grab it. Thank you. Sorry. So I did my genealogy, and my fourth generation grandfather, um, his family comes from Staffordshire, England, and they are European, and they're swarthy Europeans at that. And they're the ones that got the Homestead Act. They're the ones that signed up to be on the Dawes rolls to be an Indian, not letting the original Indians be Indians. We have so many treaties also that say Indian, not African, not black, not colored, or Negro, right? Even though Negro and Indian are synonymous one to the other, both words go together. What else could I add? I kind of do like a rundown, a timeline rundown. Um, I don't know what else to say. I have so much that, like the treaties and things. We have the treaty of 1866 with the different nations, the 5 nations they call them. They used to be Indians, now they're Europeans. Yeah, they used to be Indians, now those people are European. And they make it real hard for an actual Indian to repatriate back to their tribe. I am currently repatriating myself back to the Skorowe Wolcon Tuscarora Nation in North Carolina. They said we were extinct, but I'm sitting here talking to you, Mr. Kerry. I'm not dead.
You are not dead.
I am not dead. And according to the federal government, we dead. But I'm not, and I could trace myself back to my grandparents who are from Contiana, Pitt County, North Carolina. And I also could trace myself back to my grandparents whose last name is Roundtree and Freeman, right? And they have actual Freeman papers, not Freedman, like Freeman, because she was born 1870, right before the United States became United States, and she was born free. So they know that me and her parents were also free. And the place they're from is named Nahana, North Carolina, right? You can't get no more Indian than that, being from Nahana, North Carolina. So that's just me a little bit about my family, how I know that I am an Indian that was raised on the reservation, because I know who my family is. And then I found out that Section 3 housing projects, HUD housing, is inside of the Bureau of the Indian Affairs.
So if you listen to what she said when she first opened up, she said that there are over 200 sections in the Section 8 housing program. 200. They just give you one or two, and we happy with that. Another thing she said, and this is what Lisa and I talk about all the time. You got to repatriate to your families, y'all. Go to your families because that's what you come from. We're in this part now where most families don't even speak to each other. They don't want to know each other. And you're being kicked off your land because you asked for it. So when you call yourself a Hebrew Israelite, when you call yourself a Moor, when you call yourself an African, when you call yourself an Episcopalian, when you call yourself a Greek, what are you doing for your children? What are you saying to them? And this is what the Negro does every day. Always trying to be a character in somebody else's book. Crystal, what I want to ask you is a couple of years ago, we heard up in Oklahoma that they were giving 90% or 75% or something of the land back to the Native American. Could you explain to us what was that all about?
Okay, so they had this man that last name Murphy was arrested by the Ohio no by the Oklahoma State Police, and they locked him up, right? And he went to court against them, saying that no, you don't have that jurisdiction over me because I'm an American. Excuse me, because I'm an American Indian, right? So he went to court. They went to the state court, and then they had to take it to the federal level. And then inside of that, they seen that the state of Oklahoma, who don't have jurisdiction over the majority of the state, right? That man doing his case, him and his lawyers pulled out all the different reservations, right? All the different areas that are still up under tribal affiliation, and let the state of Oklahoma know that you don't have jurisdiction over these lands. So since they didn't have jurisdiction over those lands, they had to give those lands back to the original American Indians. You know, rename colored people, rename African Americans, right? So it's called Murphy's Law. It's Murphy's versus Oklahoma, and then Murphy versus the U.S. And with him winning his court case, it opened up the door for other people who were locked up inside of the penal system in Oklahoma to understand that where they were living at was Indian reservation and up under the jurisdiction of the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Cherokee, and the Nazmans and the Apache. You know, there's all kind of tribes inside of the state of Oklahoma, right? All kind of states because it is it's actually was like a penal colony for the Indians. You know, they moved them there so they could police them. You know, kind of sort of. And then you know with Oklahoma with Tulsa, you know they just burned it down. You know, and they had to give all of those, not all of them, but majority of people who know who they are, right? They have to give those people back their property because the state of Oklahoma does not have jurisdiction to make them pay taxes on their land, to make them move around on their land, you know, any of that. So they had to give. I'm sorry, my
So this is what I'm saying. So this is to you, noble Atom Bay. This is what I'm saying. You don't confuse those of us who know, but people who see your name and then you call yourself an Indian, you're confusing them. And then you so cold-blooded, you won't even honor your people and get your who your people were. This is how we stay confused and dumb. And we do it on purpose. Well, I didn't know it. Yeah, you do know. The sisters tell we've been telling you for the past 20 years what's going on. And y'all the main ones that fight this stuff and call yourselves all that don't make no sense. What position are you leaving those kids in? Okay, Crystal, go ahead, continue. Oh, she must be putting up the dog. But this is what I'm saying,
Oh,
y'all.
oh, you couldn't
Go
hear
ahead.
me?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, this is what I think. We had a whole lot of swarthy Europeans to come to America and amalgamated with the American Indian because they were swarthy, tawny, and ruddy. And those people who are living here now is the biggest threat to the American Indian. I have to just wake it up. They're the biggest threat to the American Indian. Um,
Could you explain how?
because when in 1968, when they signed the Indian Bill of Rights, we have Mr. Stokely Carmichael, who came out less than 90 days later after they killed Mr. Martin Luther King, talking about Black Power.
And you guys got to remember, black has no power at all. Because if it did, it would have won by now. You see how we get caught in these names and these phrases? They don't mean nothing. Black doesn't have any power because black doesn't move unless somebody moves it. Only things can be black. So when you say those terms, other people start calling you that and you accept it. So, like she said earlier, when you call yourself all these names, you're just making yourself a foreigner on your own land. Okay, Crystal, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you make yourself an immigrant. That's what you're doing. And they signed a proclamation for the Europeans to receive a type of reparations. The swarthy and the melanated European. I said, wait a minute, for real? Well, I didn't know that. But just reading all these .gov documents, and when you start doing your family genealogy, it will carry you all the way to where I'm at, and you be like, whoa. So actually, all those people in my mind look at everybody cockeyed that won't say American Indian. Say, well, how come y'all can't be natives? Or you're pretending? You're very Negro peenish, Negro peon ish to me. You know what I'm saying? You're being really Europeanish. You don't want us to be American Indian, and why, sir, ma'am? Because if we be American Indian, you're nobody here on our land, right? And we will be in our family circles. Our nations will come back together and be large, because the Tuscarora Nation, they broke us up into two separate divisions. There's the ones that are up north in New York area, and then the ones who stay behind in North Carolina, who don't get any federal recognition whatsoever. But if we'd move with them to New York, we would have lost our lands here in North Carolina. So, it's always some trickery with this here European government. Yeah, I'm real hard with it. With this European government, it's always some trickery. And so they put out the swarthy Negro pen to the American Indian because we favor them and we done married them and they done married us, right? And they don't want us to be American Indian no more. They said, no, we black, we black, we black. No, the word black means void of life, void of color, and to be white and black, it means the definitions are a synonymous one to the other. So if you white and you black, then you ain't nobody really. So we're gonna do the SF-181 form. That's the Social Security form to let your employer know who you are. So it says American Indian, any of the people, the original peoples who still have community affiliation, right, and who are still a part of their culture, right? And then it'll say Asian, they're the same original people of where they from, and they have community affiliation, right? And then it say black / African American. Any peoples from any region or country in Africa. It don't say you the original people from that land. It don't say that y'all have origins there. It just say y'all just from over there. So when they have this agenda 2063, everybody who's calling themselves an African, you do understand that no country in the 52 countries in the continent of Africa have to accept any of you all because you're not the original people of no land, of no country in Africa, right? You're a conundrum. You from a continent and a country. That is impossible. If that's the case, you should be able to go to the airport and just say, "Let me fly to Zimbabwe." Like, where your passport at? I don't need one. I'm an African. This is no, sure, you an American. You can't fly out of here like that. Your ID ain't gonna work, honey. So all of those people being African American, you can't even leave the United States and go nowhere else as an African, except for in the United States. So please make that make sense. Let's please just try to make that make sense to me. They be trying to tell me that I must be slow or something, because I can't understand. Um, when you do genealogy for different people and we be looking for these Africans and we can't find them nowhere. But you can find you some Europeans and some Indians, or you find a lot of Europeans and a whole bunch of Indians, but no Africans. That'd be like the wildest thing. Did you come across any Africans on your genealogy, Mr. Carey?
Heck no. And I got family members who swear they from it. And so, and this is how the confusion comes in. Check this out. And here go this more stuff again. And they are the biggest confusers in the world, as far as I'm concerned, because they say stuff and it makes no sense. Check this, check out what this cat say. I claimed, I claimed. That don't mean you are. That means you said you were. And see, since you're a Moor because you're calling yourself a Moor. But check out how these cats confuse everybody, especially these young men. Now, remember when these young men are coming out of high school and say they're not going to college, they're not going to the military, but they're trying to learn stuff still. Here the Moors come talking all this nonsense. I claimed indigenous rights in 2010, got my own tribe because I'm my own man. See, arrogant. You can't claim your own tribe because if you claiming you're indigenous, you came from somebody. You're not your own man. You come from some people, but you lie and say all this nonsense. And all this does is confuse everybody and puts us in the state where you can be kicked off. You got a whole bunch of Hebrew Israelites that moved to Israel. They want them gone. You got a whole bunch of Jamaicans that moved to Ethiopia trying to do that Ja Rastafari shit. They want them gone. They have children over there. Where can they go? Who are their people? These are what Negroes do. Now, this cat can be a Moor. I mean, but go check out a map of Morocco and check out who these cats are. See, these cats just think they learning something and they really don't know nothing. They're here to confuse. And this is what this cat's doing. Brother, you got kids out here that don't know they ass from a hole in the ground. And you bringing them this shit? For real, cuz? I'm sorry, Crystal. Go ahead. So this is what happens to us. So a lot of times it's not other people doing stuff to us, it's what we do to ourselves, thinking that we're helping each other. We're not. And can and see, and since they won't see it, because this stuff is real simple. This is not hard. What this sister just explained to you is simple facts. All you got to do is read it. But most Negroes can't read. They can't. They can't read. They don't know how. And so you had these cats that don't know nothing teaching these youngsters. The youngsters grow up teaching their youngsters the same dumb shit that they learned. That's how we lose. You back yet, Crystal? Oh, she jumped off. She'll be back. Do it. So we're gonna do this tomorrow night. We're gonna take a look at a world map. It's some things that we've been told over these years that's the dumbest shit ever. And we're gonna show you. They told you that these people came over the Bering Strait. Look at the Bering Strait. You yourself would say that's impossible. You got people that say they come from Africa. But like the sister said earlier, Africa, Asia, and Europe is one landmass. They're all cousins. And they're all leaving their lands over there to come take yours over here. Guess what you do? If a more don't know, don't nobody know. You see? This cat say he's his own man. He pick his own tribe because he didn't come from one. This is where the Negro is. This is how you lose. Mr. Adam Bay, I put the link to the chat in. Why don't you come on and explain it to us how you see it going against what this sister said? Why don't you explain it to us? Because, see, I'm getting these 19, 20-year-old cats that see in my book and they like, well, wait a minute, I thought we was, and I asked them to explain how they're Moors, and they can't. So why don't you come on now, brother? Here's the link. I'm posting the link now, and come on and explain it to us. Don't do that. I don't know. We don't want to hear that. Come with the real stuff. Because you setting up these kids for failure. You see, in the past 30 years, this place has been flooded. And when you go to these platforms, these other platforms, BitChute and all this, you see how they talk about you. You've been calling yourself black so long, everybody calls you that. And they don't say it with nothing nice in their voice. They call you black like you're a monster. Listen to the tone that they say it. You do that. You make that possible. Back, Crystal?
Yes, sir. My phone had died. I had to switch devices. I was like, I was on the charger too, and it still had died.
Okay, well,
Excuse me.
well, now that is live, go ahead.
Oh, what I want to say is that when people want to be a Moor, right? If you look at the 1870 Naturalization Act, it tells us who are considered free white persons, right? And it said all Jews, more or less, the Indo-European, the Slavic, the Tartarian, the Lapps, the Finns, the Box. They name out a whole lot of different people. The Latin, Greek, Celtics, and but who they say, and then they say these people right here are also considered to be free white persons. They say Moors of Spanish and Portuguese descent. So anytime an individual call himself a Moor to me, I'm gonna say, oh, so your granddaddy or your grandmama from Spain. Because that's what it means in the United States. And people like to not live inside of the law that we live under, right? You got a birth certificate and a social security number. So you can't be somebody special when you have a birth certificate and a social security number. So anybody who's calling themselves a Moor, which one of your grandparents come from Spain or Portugal? And that's just the truth to that. So these people running here around here talking about we indigenous because I'm a Moor. Nah, bruh. You a foreigner. You a foreigner. You don't remember that your folks from Spain or Portugal, or you probably not even one of them people or have any descent from a Portuguese or a Spaniard. Right? You American Indian because you let that man named Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey convince y'all that you weren't from here. When Drew Ali was a registered Cherokee member. And then you got what's that man named Jesse Jackson? Also a card carrying Cherokee by blood Cherokee who started at 1985, 84 with the Rainbow Coalition calling people African Americans when he's a whole Indian by blood and registered in the Cherokee Nation. And I heard he get a little check from them too. But he got y'all running around here, dressing, playing cosplay, dressing up like a African. Oh, now this is something that people don't know, Mr. Kerr. I'm going to share with you also. You know, they had that movie Black Panther, right? The animal, the panther, is indigenous to the North America, and the place that they were at is called Wakanda. And I said, I remember that comic book as a kid. I thought it was about America. So I go and Google Wakanda. It is in Wisconsin State National Park. It's a town in Illinois. There's a town, excuse me, there's a town in Alabama. There's a town in Texas. There's a town in Missouri. There is a town in South Dakota. There is Wakanda Beach in Oregon. There's a Wakanda in Washington State. There is a Wakanda in Kansas, the state of Kansas. All of these places in United States are named Wakanda, the Great Spirit. Right. They always doing anything they can to make you think that you are African when you are clearly everything about us is clearly American Indian. Everything we eat, the way we act, the swag and the walk, all of that. Collard greens, tomatoes, cotton, tobacco, watermelon, yams, sweet potatoes, cassava, cassava plant, okra, lima beans, field peas, crowder peas, navy beans. Did I say lima beans? Green beans. What else? Uh, in the Bible, there was this the ark was made from gopher wood. Gopher wood is a indigenous tree to Florida. I'm just throwing all kind of stuff at you now, Mr. Carey.
Oh no, you fine. Go ahead. Go right ahead. We need all the information we can get.
I'm just throwing it out there now. So, yes, the gopher wood tree is an American tree, right? We have the coca plant. That's an American plant. Make cocoa, make coke. Oh, okay. There's this book that was written in 1920 by J.M. Clemens, and it is called The Ancient Mystics of Oriental Masonry. And inside of that book, the Oriental people say that all masonry and all math started in America.
You know what? I think a lot of times, so because I notice foreigners get real pissed off when you say, well, since you're a Native American, how come you just don't call yourself American? These are simple questions that you can ask, but you got to know where you stand. When you ask a Native American, well, how come you guys just don't call yourself American? Watch the look on their face when you ask them that. And this is what I'm saying, Mr. Bay. You claim something, that's what you are. This is what you call yourself. This is what you are. And when you go look at the Moors, where they saying they come from, this sister's right here is telling you. But we don't really like to listen to each other. You're a foreigner, dude. You're saying it. But now you're in a conundrum because the information this sister's dropping puts you in a conundrum like, damn, it can't be so. So you'll come with all kind of lies and all kind of bullshit to try to move it around, but you can't do that, dude. Stop clowning, get with your family, and claim yourself, man, because everybody's dependent on you. You're not a Moor. The Moors need you to make themselves legitimate. You don't need them. I'm sorry, Crystal. Go ahead.
No, we don't need them at all. They need us. So so the real Native Americans, so there was a party. So we had the Whig Party, the Republican Party, right? And then they had the Native Party. The Native Party, yeah, those Europeans who called themselves Native now because they were the descendants born here in America. That leads me to the 1828 definition of an American. The copper color races found here by the Europeans now replaced by their descendants. Boy, it's so much. Good grief. It is so much. Like woo wee woo. So with that right there, those descendants, those European descendants now calling themselves Moors, trying to make everybody else join these fake tribes, right? Trying to get you all messed up joining these fake tribes. And when you join one of those fake tribes, you mess yourself up, and then they put you in a trust. Now if your family does have a land patent or they do have land somewhere, you just signed your life away to the individuals who ain't even probably American Indians at all. They more than likely European because they don't want you to call yourself an Indian. So anybody who don't want to call you, who you talk to about being an American, don't want you to call yourself an Indian, you need to look at them cockeyed because all the treaties are signed with Indians. The projects, all the section housing is called the Indian Housing Act. The civil rights actual name is called the Indian Bill of Rights. They say blacks, we don't have no power. Yes, you do. You have tons of protections, federal protections. I mean, so many federal protections. You can't use them because you keep calling yourself an immigrant. You call yourself black, that person dead in law, and then you call yourself African, that person an immigrant. So you calling yourself a dead man, a dead immigrant. That is basically what you call yourself. If you call yourself black or African, you're calling yourself a dead immigrant. How dare they? So, um, also inside this section housing, there's section 184, right? And that is when the USDA have to give the Indians loans free of what are the percentages and all the feedback stuff that, when you do a housing loan, it's free of all of that. None of the rates and all the things that you do if you bought a house normally out on your own. If you use the section 184, it is through the Department of the Interior. All of that stemming from living in the projects. Did you know you grew up on a reservation? Did you know? I found out I grew up on the reservation. Mr. Carey, I don't know if you ever lived in the projects or if you live in a 150-mile radius of the projects. Wait a minute, what you saying? We still Indians? Yes, you could be an urban Indian. Not a tribal affiliated. Indians, the United States here government. If you Google me, my name is Crystal Spaulding. I don't mind. When you Google Crystal Spaulding, you will see that I am a Republican, American Indian, verified and certified American Indian, registered voter with this here federal government.
So, Crystal, let me ask you this. So, what do you think about the people when you tell them that they're a Republican? They think Republican is something. You're a Republican. I'm like, dude, that's all you were. What do you think about those people?
I think those people are haven't really read anything, and they just like to regurgitate things other people have told them. Because if they remember, we the people, we are the republic. So we started out as a Republican. Then Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Indian Bill of Rights, and then Stokely Carmichael came out with Black Power, right, and got the Indians who forget who he was. They made the Indian forget themselves. That's what I think about that. They made the Indian forget themselves with all these new terms: Negro, colored, Afro, Black. All of them people are foreigners. I'm an American Indian. Skaroi Wokan Tuscarora Nation. That's what I think about
Ooh.
that.
Oh no, I mean that's what I'm saying, man. Damn. You right in your own land, but you gonna call yourself something from another place. So
A
it's like
whole immigrant.
a whole immigrant and arrogant about it. Arrogant. So that's all I'm saying because what I'm seeing in my 58 years on the planet, I didn't go to school with all these immigrants. Now they're being now my grandkids are in the position they're it's more the immigrants than them. Guess who helps make that possible? The Negro. You are helping them. The Moor, the Hebrew Israelite, the Greek, the Negro Christian. Really, dude? The Hebrew Israelite? You're making yourself a foreigner. So when they come scoop you up and you claiming all this stuff, hey, we'll just send you back to this desert. Who's going to come to your aid? Jesus? Allah? They
Can
had
I
to.
jump in? Jesus is an Algonquin word. Okay.
Well, no, 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 no. I mean, so wouldn't it be better if we knew the spiritual practices of the people here? I mean, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't somebody say it? Didn't the people think in a more natural way, like the animals you see? Weren't they into nature? Didn't they do things the natural way? I think we had a program on here a couple of weeks ago where somebody said if you dropped a brick on some ants, the ants would just get up and keep going like nothing happened. Didn't we used to be like that? Didn't we used to give some kind of homage to our ancestors? Didn't the sisters used to go to the land and make up the medicines and stuff for us? Didn't we used to live in nature, build our homes and whatever? And didn't we do that? We don't even think about it now. So all this stuff she's telling you, all this stuff we talk about every week, we're giving it right to you. You rather be a foreigner. I say be one. Crystal, last words for us.
Yes, sir. I say do your genealogy. And if you're scared to do your genealogy and you just rather be an African booty scratcher, thumb in the booty bandit, I say thumbs up, sir, ma'am. Yeah, I'm disrespectful about those people. Yeah, they African booty scratchers in my mind. Okay, that was bad terminology. You want about to call you black and you want about to call you African when I was growing up. So you want to be a booty scratcher, go right ahead and scratch on, ma'am and sir. Enjoy your trip back to Africa in 2063.
Cool. Crystal, you're gonna have to come back, love. I have to
Yes,
make you a
sir.
regular because I think you explain it in a way where young people get it.
Yes, sir.
Plus you're, mom, you're female, and females seem to get stuff across because they have that mother voice. And we all have a mother that we grew up with, and we can relate to that. So I really appreciate the information you shared tonight.
And I'm so thankful and happy that you invited me to come to your show to share what I know
Well, when
with
you
the world.
well, when you ready, come on back, baby. Because I love to hear you speak.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know my country accent.
Hey, so
Thank
who
you.
so who do you sound like in the world with that country accent? Who else in the world has that country accent?
Only American Indians. So
We
when
need
oh, so when you oh, so just right here before we go, real quick. So when you listen to those slave people, those people who call themselves slaves, or those narratives and whatnot, if those people were African, why do they sound like me?
because they are you.
So how you call them an African when they only have an American dialect? Any foreigner I ever met, I don't care how long they have lived in America, they still have their accent strong in their voice.
Before you go, Mr. Hardy wants to know why 2063. What's the significance of that date?
So in 2063, I hope to still be alive, and I hope you still be alive, Mr. Carey. But if any one of us are gone, and we're not telling nobody now that you're an American Indian, them people will be just signing up, ready to go back to Africa easily. It's called
Oh,
birthing out.
okay.
If they put it far enough out, the new people won't know that who they are because the older people didn't tell them. So I'm glad that we are now shaking every tree, digging up rocks. You know what I'm saying? Let's go to the mounds. The oldest man-made structures are in Poverty Point, Louisiana. The largest man-made structure in the world is the Cohoiki pyramids in Illinois. They have the largest pyramid complex in the world in Cohoiki, Illinois. And if they keep birthing us out, people won't know. But people like me and you gonna make sure that everybody that we can touch know who they are. Thank you.
You're damn right. Crystal, thank you. And you definitely got to come back again because they loving what you're saying. Everybody's saying real talk, giving you a standing ovation and everything. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank y'all. Thank y'all.
All right, Crystal. So look, y'all, this is what I'm saying. So this is what uh 2063 is about. She just reminded me. All the baby boomers will be gone. All the baby boomers will be gone. Isn't that what they say? The baby boomers are from 1945 to 1964. But you calling yourself a more. This is what I mean. It makes sure they can get you off the land. And with all the people coming, and remember, me and Lisa about to do a program that's going to blow y'all away. When you look up Europe, Africa, Asia, all of that is one place. I know they tell you it's a kind and all that. It's if you look at a map, and that's one of the things we don't do. We don't look at things ourselves. We don't go look at the Bering Strait ourselves. We just listen to some idiot tell us what it is. When you look at a map, and we're gonna show you, we're gonna probably do it tomorrow night. We're gonna show you that that's one landmass. They all coming over here and they all been trained to look at you the same way. So it's like the military here. See, a lot of times we can't complain about stuff because aren't we in their military? Don't we fight and kill each other daily? That's on us. See, we can't keep saying, oh, somebody this, I'm not. Nah. You keep trying to wash your hands of something where your hands is filthy. Better wake up to what these people are telling you, what these people are showing you. They come over here and act more like it's their home than it's yours, don't they? So listen, we want to say thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank Crystal. She's telling you, you live 150 miles of Indian public housing. They're talking about you. But since you're all these other things, you don't even realize it, and you can't pass it down to your children. You can't pass it down to your grandchildren, because all you do, and what's real telling about that civil rights generation, they're all very selfish. They don't really think about nobody but themselves. You keep that up, you won't be here long. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you soon. Peace.